this is a timeline which I may refer to here. These are the 22 chapters of the book of Revelation. Revelation is laid out chronologically. It has a beginning, it has a middle, and of course there's a big finale at the end. So I just wanted to show you this. These arrows, what they represent is, as we know in Revelation 4, that is the rapture when John is called up by a trumpet and a voice to come up here. And then the arrow down is when we return back with him. And this is the second coming. Okay. What is black here is most of the things that are in chapters 11, 12, and 13 are all mid-trib events. So that just gives you sort of an eyeball visual of what's going on. This right here is what I have dubbed the Tribulation Tetrad. Mark Biltz found it, I think 2008, and what it is, he found that these patterns, which really turned me on a few years ago, is that when a tetrad is, it's known in astronomy. And again, this is not, looking at these things is not astrology. This has nothing to do with relating this stuff to our personal lives like astrology does. This has to do with, we're applying it to Scripture for signs. Genesis 1:14, God says that He's put the lights in the heavens for signs. Now, and we've been told repeatedly by Messiah to watch for His coming. With signs in the heavens, there'll be lights in the sky. And He tells us many times that there will be these eclipses. The sun will go black, the moon will turn to blood, over and over and over. Joel 2:31, Matthew 24:29. So this right here is a blood moon tetrad. These are full lunar eclipses right here. And what makes this different and distinct is that when 4 of them are in a row without any partials, that's the yellow ones, without any partial eclipses, lunar eclipses in between, it's called a tetrad. And they're evenly spaced out as well. Now, these things are rare, but they're even far more rare when they happen on the Lord's feast days. Leviticus 23 tells us about the 7 of the Lord's feast days, which means it's not a feast meaning you eat a lot of food. It's the Moedim, which means the appointed times. It's appointments on God's biblical calendar. And the first of these, if you've seen the 7 candlestick menorah, not the 9 for Hanukkah, but the 7, which is for the Lord's feast days, the first is Passover, and the 7th candle is called the Feast of Tabernacles, or Sukkot. When this happens 2 years in a row, Passover, Sukkot, it is what's called a prophetic tetrad. Because what has happened on these days is extremely interesting, and we've got this coming in 2014, 2015. This is a close-up of a chart that I have that goes all the way back to the year 1. This is what we were just looking at. This is the 4 blood moons of 2014 and 2015. The last 2 times that this has happened, it happened 1949 and 1950, which happened just after 1948 when they came back in their land prophetically after almost 1900 years of them being dispersed and being without a homeland. They prophetically, as was prophesied in the Old Testament, they would come back into their homeland, and they did. What's also interesting is that if you look at the spacing between these tetrads, 19 years of space between these, 48 years of space between these. This is prophetic. God is clearly telling us what He's doing here, okay? And for those who have eyes to see, to figure this stuff out, we will know what He's doing, okay? So 1949, 1915 was the first time that Passover, and Sukkot would happen after the event, okay? Marked it in the sky, like with a big red Sharpie. Take a look at this. Pay attention. Then in 1967 and 1968, it happened again. Well, what happened there? For 19 years, the Jews did not have their capital. They did not have the city. Jerusalem was not under their control. But with the 6-Day War, they got Jerusalem back. Amazing. They got the land back. They got the state. 19 years later, they got the city. And what I believe, 48 years later, they will get their temple. Okay? The state, the capital, and then their temple. It's kind of like they're getting closer and closer, detailing in to that Temple Mount, because right now it is not in their control. It's got the Dome of the Rock on there, which the Arabs control that, and they do not allow Jews up there. That's why the Jews all have to be down below at the Western Wall to do their worshiping, because they're not allowed up there. They don't even want Christians up there. They want no. It's illegal to even pray up there, unless you're praying to false gods of Islam. So that's my take, my theory on this is that that's what these tetrads mean. They are going to get that Temple Mount back one way or another, probably due to a war that will come soon, and then they will be able to rebuild their temple, and that will be due to Daniel 9:27, the peace covenant being signed at that time, giving them the go-ahead. Just like Artaxerxes back in, 445 BC, gave the go-ahead to rebuild. It's going to happen again to open up this time period and get this time clock started again. This is the woman clothed in the sun with 12 stars at her head, okay, because Leo, the lion, which is representative of the Lion of the tribe of Judah, which is Messiah, it has 9 stars in it, and this is the only year that Venus, Mars, and Mercury come into conjunction with the king star here, which is Regulus, which is where we get our word regal, and this is, of course, the king constellation. So these are all the signs we're supposed to watch. And then, of course, the king planet is being birthed. I mean, it's pretty obvious, okay? Also, Spica here is a star, which is actually her left hip. The artwork may be a little confusing. Don't let it be confusing. Don't look at man's artwork. Look at God's artwork. I put the artwork up here just because it's easier to see, but look a little bit deeper and understand how the constellation is formed, and you will see that Jupiter is within the birthing canal between the legs. Okay, so we've got Mercury, Mars, and Venus coming into right above her head, coming into alignment with the 9 stars in Leo. That's 12. Okay, 12 stars. The arrow comes up. The woman is clothed in the sun, and it's about as obvious as can be based on Revelation 12. So then what I say is Revelation 12 is mid-trib, okay? And I've explained that also in my most logical rapture theory. It's mid-trib very obviously because everything that happens in Revelation 12 is a mid-trib event. Okay, the sign is Satan gets thrown out of heaven mid-trib. All of this, if you understand eschatology, it's very obvious, but it's also told to us not once but twice. Here's the number, which tells us, this is the clue, 1,260 days, which is 3.5 years. We also then see Satan thrown out of heaven. That's obviously a mid-trib event. And then he pursues the woman and tries to, because he hates the Jewish bloodline, but it says that the woman is given 2 wings of a great eagle that she might fly into the wilderness, again stating the same thing as above, where she is nourished for a time, that's 1 year, and times, that's 2 more years, and a half time. So it's telling us again, 1, 2, 3.5, being very obvious that we have 3.5 years left. We know the tribulation is a 7-year period from Daniel 9:27, which means it's 1 week of years because that's what all Daniel's 70 weeks are. They are weeks of years that need to be fulfilled. We got one left to go, and that is the tribulation period. So if we're at 7, what's half of 7? 3.5. If you got 3.5 to go, where are you? You're in the middle. If you've got 3.5 years to go this way until the return of Messiah, then you can go this way to see, hey, when does the tribulation begin? And it's somewhere in this area. Then what I did is I took a fish representing us, the church, and I gave him a little lift off. And that, I believe, I put him right above September of 2013, because I believe logically, based on a preacher rapture belief system, which I think is blatantly obvious that it is, I believe that the Feast of Trumpets, if you've watched my video on the Feast of Trumpets in my Best of playlist, you will see all the proof that shows that the Feast of Trumpets would be the next event to be fulfilled by Messiah. That is right here. So he takes off from here. He, meaning the little fish guy.
sipping on a latte, baby.